Let's begin with something simple but powerful. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you could be. Now think about that for a moment. Every person listening to me today has two versions of themselves. There's the current version with current habits, current income, current health, current results. And then there's the possible version, stronger, sharper, more focused, more disciplined, more successful. The distance between those two versions is not luck. It's not talent. It's not opportunity. It's discipline. You see, most people overestimate what they can do in a weekend and underestimate what they can do in 60 disciplined days. They look for dramatic change. They want transformation to feel explosive, but real transformation is quiet. It's built in the small, often boring decisions that nobody applauds. Success is not mysterious. It leaves clues. And those clues are found in daily behavior. If you want better results, you must become better. That's the formula. Not more wishing, not more hoping, becoming better. And how do you become better? You build better habits. The 60-day discipline test is not about doing something extreme. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. If you normally wake up at 8, it's not about turning your entire life upside down in a single week. It's about doing the basics consistently. It's about choosing a wake-up time and honoring it, choosing a workout plan and following it, choosing a reading goal and completing it, choosing to work on your craft daily, even if it's only for one focused hour. Little by little, day by day, here's what most people don't understand. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You can have the biggest goals in the world. You can write them down. You can visualize them. You can talk about them, but if your daily system is weak, your results will be weak. Your life is not built in the future. It's built in the present. Today is constructing tomorrow. For the next 60 days, imagine living with one principle, no negotiation with yourself. If you say you'll wake up at 6, you wake up at 6. If you say you'll exercise for 30 minutes, you exercise for 30 minutes. If you say you'll avoid distractions during work hours, you do exactly that. No emotional debate, no inner courtroom discussion. Just action. Why is this so important? Because every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your own self-trust. And when self-trust goes down, confidence goes down. And when confidence goes down, performance goes down. But the reverse is also true. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen your character. You begin to say, I am someone who does what I say. And that identity shift is powerful. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is you saying, my future matters more than my comfort. Most people choose comfort over progress. They choose easy over effective. They choose now over later. But for 60 days, you choose differently. You choose progress over pleasure. You choose structure over chaos. You choose intention over impulse. And here's the interesting part. The actions themselves may not seem extraordinary. Waking up on time is not extraordinary. Finishing your daily task list is not extraordinary. Drinking more water, reading 10 pages, exercising consistently, none of that makes headlines. But stacked together for 60 days, they change a life. Compounding does not only work in money, it works in behavior. 1 disciplined day is good. 7 disciplined days build momentum. 30 disciplined days build identity. 60 disciplined days build transformation. And during those 60 days, something subtle begins to happen. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop entertaining excuses. You stop explaining to yourself why you can't. You begin to operate from a higher standard. You see, the 60-day discipline test is not about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself, that you can control your mornings, that you can control your focus. that you can control your habits, that you can control your direction, because if you can control your day, you can control your destiny. The bridge from where you are to where you want to be is not built in one giant leap. It's built one disciplined brick at a time. And every day you lay another brick, the bridge gets stronger, stronger habits, stronger mindset, stronger identity. Until one day you look back and realize you are no longer standing where you used to stand. You crossed over. And it didn't happen by accident. It happened because for 60 days you decided that discipline was no longer optional, it was the standard. Now let's talk about something that stops more dreams than failure ever could: waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is a wonderful feeling. It's powerful, it's emotional, it can make you feel unstoppable. But here's the problem: it doesn't stay. Some mornings you wake up energized, other mornings you wake up tired. Some days you feel confident, other days you feel uncertain. If your performance depends on your feelings, then your results will always fluctuate with your emotions. And emotions change daily. The 60-day discipline test is not about feeling inspired for 2 months. It's about learning to act in the absence of motivation. That's maturity. Anyone can perform when they're excited. Anyone can work hard when the idea is new. Anyone can push when the energy is high and the compliments are flowing. But what about the quiet days? What about the mornings when the alarm goes off and your body says, "Not today"? What about the afternoons when you're distracted, restless, tempted to delay? What about the evenings when no one is watching and no one would know if you skipped? That's where the test begins. You see, amateurs wait for motivation. Professionals rely on discipline. If you only act when you feel like it, you will build a life that reflects your moods instead of your goals. And moods are unpredictable. The disciplined person understands something simple: feelings are temporary, but consequences are lasting. If you skip the workout because you don't feel like it, the feeling passes, but the missed progress remains. If you delay your work because you're not inspired, the comfort fades, but the unfinished task stays. Discipline says, do it anyway. Do it when you're tired. Do it when you're bored. Do it when it's inconvenient. Do it when it's uncomfortable, because discipline is not about how you feel. It's about what you've decided. During these 60 days, you will experience emotional ups and downs. That's normal. Some days you'll feel powerful. Other days you'll question yourself. Some days progress will be visible. Other days it will feel invisible. And here's the danger: invisible progress can feel like no progress. That's when most people quit. They mistake silence for stagnation, but growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's happening quietly beneath the surface. Roots grow before branches show. The 60-day discipline test trains you to continue even when you cannot yet see the result. You show up not because it feels good, but because it's right. You work not because you're applauded, but because you committed. You keep your word not because it's easy, but because your word matters. That's how character is built. And character is built in private. No crowd, no spotlight, no immediate reward, just you and your decision. The disciplined person understands something powerful. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Most people say, "I'll start when I feel motivated," but it works in reverse. You start, you act, you move. And then motivation follows. Motion produces emotion. When you begin, even in a small way, you shift your state. You build momentum, and momentum makes the next action easier, but you must begin without waiting. During these 60 days, you may not feel ready. You may not feel confident. You may not feel excited, but you act anyway, and something extraordinary begins to happen. You start separating yourself from your emotions. Instead of saying, "I feel lazy, so I'll be lazy," you say, "I feel lazy, but I'll act disciplined." That small separation is powerful. It means you are no longer controlled by temporary impulses. You are guided by long-term vision. The world is full of interested people. They're interested in success, interested in fitness, interested in growth, but interest is emotional. Commitment is behavioral. The interested person works when it's convenient. The committed person works when it's required. For 60 days, you choose commitment, and that commitment reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer someone who waits. You are someone who executes. You are no longer someone who negotiates. You are someone who honors decisions, and once you learn to act without motivation, you unlock a new level of control. You're no longer at the mercy of your mood. You're no longer dependent on inspiration. You're no longer fragile in the face of discomfort. You become stable, and stability is powerful, because when your behavior becomes steady, your results become predictable. And predictable progress builds confidence. By the end of 60 days, you won't just have new habits, you will have evidence. Evidence that you can act when you don't feel like it. Evidence that you can persist when it's uncomfortable. Evidence that you can follow through regardless of emotion, and that evidence changes how you see yourself. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and you start declaring, "I do what I said I would do," and that is where real power begins. Now let's get to the heart of it. The real battle is not with your circumstances. It's not with your competitors. It's not with the economy, the weather, or the opinions of others. The real battle is with yourself. That may not sound dramatic, but it is deeply personal, because every single day you are faced with two voices. One voice pushes you forward. It reminds you of your goals. It speaks of discipline, growth, long-term vision. It tells you to get up, to move, to execute, to finish what you started. The other voice whispers comfort. It suggests delay. It offers reasonable excuses. It says you can start tomorrow. It says you deserve a break. It says it's not that serious. And here's the danger. The second voice often sounds logical. It doesn't sound like sabotage. It sounds like self-care. It sounds harmless. It sounds justified. That's why this battle is so subtle. The 60-day discipline test is not about fighting the world. It is about recognizing and mastering that internal conversation. Because every time you give in to the weaker voice, you reinforce a pattern. You reinforce procrastination. You reinforce inconsistency. You reinforce doubt. But every time you win that internal argument, something shifts. You build strength. You see, discipline is not a single action. It is a series of small victories over yourself. When the alarm rings and you want to stay in bed, that's a battle. When you're tempted to scroll instead of work, that's a battle. When you feel tired halfway through a task and want to quit, that's a battle. And most people underestimate how often these battles occur. They think discipline is about big, heroic moments. It's not. It's about ordinary moments handled correctly. It's about choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. During these 60 days, you will discover your patterns. You will notice when you tend to slow down. You will see when excuses show up. You will become aware of the habits that have quietly shaped your results. That awareness alone is powerful because you cannot change what you do not confront. And once you see the pattern, you have a choice. You can say, "That's just how I am." Or you can say, "That may be who I was, but it's not who I'm becoming." The real battle is not about perfection. You are not trying to become flawless. You are trying to become consistent, and consistency requires self-honesty. You must be willing to look at your own behavior without blame and without denial. If you're distracted, admit it. If you're procrastinating, admit it. If you're choosing comfort over progress, admit it. Not to shame yourself, but to take control. Because once you admit the truth, you can change it. For 60 days, you practice catching yourself in the moment. You catch the excuse before it becomes action. You catch the delay before it becomes a habit. You catch the negative thought before it becomes belief. And every time you interrupt that old pattern, you weaken it. Habits are not broken in a single day. They are weakened gradually. Think of it like this. Every time you choose discipline, you cast a vote for your future self. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you cast a vote for your old self. And over 60 days, those votes add up. You are deciding which version of yourself will dominate. This is not about intensity, it's about identity. Because the more you win these small internal battles, the more you begin to trust yourself. You begin to think, I don't quit easily. I don't break promises. I don't let moods control my direction. And that belief is built through repetition. There will be days during this test when the resistance feels stronger. Days when the voice of comfort is louder than usual. Days when progress feels slow. Those are the days that matter most. Anyone can be disciplined when it's easy. The transformation happens when it's hard. When you push through resistance, you expand your capacity. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once felt difficult becomes routine. You raise your standard. And once a standard is raised, it is very difficult to go back. You see, the world doesn't need you to defeat everyone else. It needs you to master yourself, because when you master yourself, your time, your habits, your focus, your emotions, you become unstoppable in a quiet way. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, and steady wins. By the end of 60 days, the external world may not look completely different. But internally, something will have shifted. You will walk differently. You will think differently. You will respond differently because you have proven to yourself that you can win the daily battle. And once you learn to win against your own weakness, there is very little left that can defeat you. Win the argument within. Now let me share something that may be the most important realization of this entire journey. 60 days is not just enough time to change your habits. It is enough time to begin changing your identity. And identity is everything. Most people focus on results. They say, I want to lose weight. I want to earn more money. I want to become more productive. Those are outcomes. There's nothing wrong with outcomes, but outcomes are effects. Identity is the cause. The 60-day discipline test is not really about what you achieve during those days. It's about who you become while achieving it, because when identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you have an internal story about yourself. You have labels you carry quietly. I'm not consistent. I struggle with discipline. I start strong but don't finish. I'm not a morning person. I'm easily distracted. Those labels shape behavior. If you believe you're inconsistent, you'll behave inconsistently. If you believe you lack discipline, you'll look for proof of that belief. Identity always works to stay consistent with itself. So if you truly want lasting change, you must begin to challenge the old identity. And how do you do that? Not with affirmations alone, not with positive thinking alone, but with evidence. For 60 days, you gather evidence. Evidence that you wake up when you say you will. Evidence that you finish what you start. Evidence that you follow through even when it's inconvenient. Evidence that you act without waiting for motivation. Evidence that you win the internal battles. And as that evidence stacks up, something powerful happens. You stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined. You start saying, I am disciplined. That shift is subtle, but life-changing. Because once you see yourself as a disciplined person, you no longer negotiate with behavior that contradicts that identity. Disciplined people don't skip simply because they feel like it. Disciplined people don't abandon commitments casually. Disciplined people don't allow temporary discomfort to define their direction, not because they are superhuman, but because it's who they are. Over these 60 days, you are not just building habits, you are raising your standard. And standards determine destiny. If your standard is, I do it when it's convenient, your results will reflect convenience. If your standard becomes, I do it because I said I would, your results will reflect commitment. Standards are powerful because they eliminate debate. When your standard is low, everything is negotiable. When your standard is high, decisions become automatic. You don't argue with yourself about whether to show up. You show up. You don't debate whether to finish the task. You finish it. You don't question whether to follow through. You follow through. And once you operate from a higher standard for 60 days, you begin to feel uncomfortable lowering it. That's when real transformation occurs, because the goal is not to complete 60 days and then return to your old patterns. The goal is to make your old patterns unacceptable, to look at who you used to be and say, that's no longer me. After 60 days of consistent discipline, you won't just have improved fitness or productivity or focus. You will have improved self-respect, and self-respect changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you speak. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you expect from yourself. You will begin to notice something interesting. Opportunities that once intimidated you will feel manageable. Tasks that once felt overwhelming will feel structured. Goals that once seemed distant will feel attainable, not because the world changed, because you changed. Identity drives performance. When you see yourself as someone capable, consistent, and disciplined, you approach life differently. You take responsibility more easily. You handle setbacks more calmly. You recover from mistakes more quickly. You don't collapse at the first sign of difficulty, because you have 60 days of proof behind you. Proof that you can endure discomfort. Proof that you can override emotion. Proof that you can stay steady. And that proof becomes part of you. It becomes your new normal. The greatest reward of the 60-day discipline test is not external applause. It is internal certainty, certainty that you can trust yourself. When you trust yourself, fear loses its grip. When you trust yourself, procrastination weakens. When you trust yourself, confidence becomes quiet and natural. You no longer chase motivation. You no longer depend on perfect conditions. You no longer need constant reassurance. You operate from identity, and when identity is aligned with discipline, growth becomes sustainable. 60 days is long enough to reset your direction, long enough to rewrite your self-image, long enough to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. And once you see yourself differently, your life can never return to its old level, because you don't rise to what you wish for. You rise to who you believe you are, and after 60 disciplined days, you will believe in a stronger version of yourself.